Hey there, this video is to go through the Snap-in Ready Game Modes marketplace asset for Unreal Engine 4. We're going to go through all of the functionalities of the system and what all the parameters do, how to configure it, how to integrate it, and all that good stuff. This will be somewhat of a long video, so if you only are interested in certain parts of it, look at the description. There are some timestamps there that you can skip certain sections or just look at the sections that you want. So I'm going to get right into it here. I'm just going to quickly hit play just to show the various options in the main menu here. So we can see when the game loads up, we have our various game modes on the left side here, and you can customize your own main menu however you want. These buttons you can just drag and drop into any widget UI or any main menu UI and just set the game mode that you want. If you add additional game modes, you just need to update the enumerator that's in the system here to add new game modes. Network types for game modes that you want to create, so you can just select those there and obviously create, find, and these are the various maps. And again, these map buttons are also on their own, so you can update an enumerator of different maps that you add and then just drag the button in and choose which map it is. Pretty easy to do if you look at the code of the widget there. We'll look at that a little bit later. And just on the main page here, I have two sections here that are under debug, so capture the flag and search and destroy. And this is just so if you want to add different logic to search and destroy or capture the flag, you can test it without having to load up a whole game with multiple players and so on. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to load up capture the flag so we can take a look at it. All the other game modes are pretty similar in that they're mostly just death matches, but different team variations. The capture the flag and search and destroy modes have different win conditions, so I'm just going to take a look at these. My character's red on the bottom right. I'm on team number 1, and you can see my flag status there in the bottom right is right now it's in its base. And in the top right you can see the scores. If I hold tab, I can see the time ticking down for the match, and I can see the various scores for all the teams that are in the match. Right now there's only one team because I'm just in debug mode. So because I'm on team 1, I won't be able to obviously grab my own flag here. But if I go to the other flag, I can grab that. And now the other player would see in the bottom right, they would see the UI change, so they would show that their flag is stolen. And you see I just got a point for the red team. And if I get killed while carrying the flag drops wherever I die, and one of my teammates would have to pick it up. Otherwise, one of the opposite team can pick it up, and they would have to bring it back to their base in order to restore it. I can also hit G, which obviously is configurable, but I can drop the flag somewhere if I want to, if I have to fight. So we can just test to make sure that that's working, and it is. You can replace the flag or the base with any meshes that you want. And that's basically what this is for. If you need to test that logic, or you want to change it, or change, any of the configuration, the score, or however that works, you can change that logic and just test it out here. And just to show you where that is, it's under blueprints here. We have capture the flag and we have search and destroy. So let's look at the search and destroy mode. Okay, so we can see here, there's just a notification at the top that says that we're in debug mode, and also it says the bad guys team number is team number 1. You always start as team number 1 in debug mode for search and destroy. I have a whole tab, you can see I'm on team 1. In the bottom right it shows the little bad guy icon. So there's the bomb. I can walk over to pick it up. Once it's on me, I can't drop it unless I'm killed. And when the real match starts, it'll automatically be assigned to one of the bomb carrying team. So one person will automatically have the bomb strapped to them. When you walk up to the plant location, which is identifiable by this giant glow thing here, which you can obviously customize, hold F and the bomb will be planted. You can configure how long it takes to plant it. I think I have it set to 20 seconds right now. And just for debug mode, I have it set to switch you to the other team 5 seconds after you plant it, so you can test defusing if you want to. Okay, so the bomb's planted. You can see the top right, the countdown started. Everybody would see the UI where it says bomb planted, everybody in the game. So now you can see I'm on team 2. I can see that the bomb's been planted. And I can test defusing the bomb here. And now if there was still another team member here and there's only one left and I killed them, then the other team would lose because they also died, all of their team members. But all these icons are changeable, they're all replaceable, and we'll see where that is in a minute. Okay, so bomb diffused, and I won. Okay, so that's just what the two debug modes are for. If you want to change any logic there, or just play with that a little bit, you can do that. Or if you want to test something new that you've added, you can do that there. Capture the flag is right here. If you go in here, there's two aspects to it. There's the base and the flag. If we open up the base, there's some basic instructions here. And it just says to place two of these anywhere in the map that you want and set their team numbers, and the flags will be spawned automatically. Okay, and you want to put these in every map that would potentially be a capture the flag map. So even if the map is also used for a deathmatch, you want to put this in here if you're using it for capture the flag. If it's not a capture the flag game mode, then they'll automatically be removed from the map, so you don't have to worry about that. But if it's going to be a capture the flag map, then you definitely just want to throw one of these bases in there. Well, two of them actually, because you need two teams. And then on the right here, just adjust the team numbers. So this would be team number 1's base, and this would be team number 2's base. And then when the game starts, the flags will automatically be spawned above that. This is the flag here. So again, just quick instructions. You don't need to put these in your map, but you can replace the mesh if you want to. So you don't have to use this hilarious flag that I've created. You can replace that with your own mesh. But you want to keep this overlap around it so that it can get picked up by the players. And then if we go back one directory here, and we can look at the search and destroy mode, pretty much works the same way. You have the bomb, and you have the plant, so where you plant the bomb. So again, you can just change these however you want. This is just for placement in the level. The front will get deleted automatically when the game starts. That's just to see where it is from far away. You can delete that if you don't like it there. But you can change the mesh here however you want. And same goes for the bomb. You can change the bomb mesh however you want. Just do not mess with the collisions here, because you need those collisions in order for the game functions to work. So again, what you would do is just put the plant in the level however you want it, and that's why you have the front there, so you know which side the player would have to approach to plant it. So if you want to put it on an angle or something, you can do that, just so you know which side to put it on. And if the game mode is not a search and destroy mode, it'll automatically get removed from the level, so you don't have to worry about that. So you'd want to put it in every single level that you would ever use as a search and destroy mode. Right now we're in the main menu, so we're in the startup map. So you could use your own startup map if you want to, or you can just use the existing one here and just change it however you want. The way this works is when the map starts up, a spectator pawn is spawned and possessed by the player controller, and that spectator pawn is right here. So it's just a SIRGM spectator, and if we open that up, it's just a very basic startup code, and this is run when the player controller possesses it, and it will either start up the main menu for the startup page, or it will start up the lobby menu. Okay, so this is handled automatically, so you don't have to actually edit any of this, but this is the one that will start up whenever you're in a menu map. And the way you know if you're in a menu map is if you look at your map names, it should start with the prefix menu underscore. But you can configure this, but you'd want to make sure that your menu maps all have a menu underscore. That way it spawns a spectator, and it'll spawn it in the start position that you specify for the menu. And speaking of start positions, you can see right here which is menu spectator. This is a start position. Okay, so you can see up here it's player start actor. So that's just in the blueprints here. So whenever you create a new map, or if you have created a new menu or a lobby, wherever you want the player to spawn for the menu, you just want to drop one of these guys in here. This is universal, so you're going to drop these in for any map and any game mode. And it starts off with Team 0. But if we go over here, you can see where it says menu map. If we put a tick on that, it's now a menu start point, which means that when the game starts up, it's going to find all the player starts, and it's going to look for this menu one if it's a menu map, and it's going to start your player there. Okay, and he's going to be facing that way. So right now you can see there's a player start right here, right on that guy, and when I hit play, that's where I'm starting. And that's because this is a menu map, menu underscore startup, and the starting position is a menu map right there. You only need to have one menu start per menu map, even for the lobby when you might have more than one player. If this is a playable map, then we just drop as many of these in as we need, and we just change the team numbers. And you can, just for ease of viewing when you're creating your maps, you can change the color. So you can say this is team 1, and you can just duplicate that however many times you need. And then you can duplicate those and change them all to team 2 if you want, and change the color, and so on. Okay, and you can do that for as many teams as you want in your game mode. Okay, but the important thing to remember here is it's good to have at least as many spawn points as players per team. You can have many more, so it's more random, and they are picked at random when the game starts. You shouldn't have less than the amount of players. You can, so what'll happen when you have less, so if I only have one spawn point per team, anytime a spawn point is used, it's flagged as used, so it won't be used again in the next round. But if there's no free spawn points left for that team, then the system will use a backup method which will reuse one of the existing ones, just to make sure the game doesn't break. But it's good to space them out and have as many as you need per team, but you can have more just to make it more random where they start.
All spawn points are released after 8 seconds of being used.
Okay, let's take a look at the widgets here. So these are the main widgets that are used. Main menu widget is right there, main menu. So if we open that up, you can see this is what it looks like. So you can add these buttons as you see fit for your different game modes, or for whatever game modes you want to support, or whatever you add later on. Obviously, you can delete these. And the rest of this is just the way the rest of the game functions. So this is the advanced sessions stuff. So this is automatically hidden unless you enable advanced sessions, and we'll do that a little bit later so you can see how that works. But if you don't use advanced sessions, you don't have to worry about that. It just disappears by default. So we have create, find. That's pretty obvious what that does. This go button is only valid if you're using advanced sessions. Otherwise, the create and find button will kick off the create and find on its own. This is just the UI that shows where games will load, any games that are found, any sessions. So you'll see them in a list here, and that list is auto-populated based on what's found. So we'll take a look at how that's done as well. And then the map buttons are configurable as well. So you can use this widget in any startup map that you want. You don't have to use a startup map that is included. So that's up to you, but you would want to include probably some iteration of this widget here. You could just use it right out of the box and change the colors and do whatever you want. However, if you wanted to create everything from scratch, you can do that. You just want to mimic the functionality. So you still want to use the buttons that we have, and you still want to at least have vertical box to have the sessions in, and you need a session row holder here to hold all the rows. As long as you have those components in any widget, it should work fine. So just use this as a template to do that if you want to build your own, or just use this and modify it. So let's take a look at the map or the game mode buttons here. So if we just edit this, and these can be found under the snippets. So they're not in the, it just means that they're part of one of the main widgets, and it's under the main. So you can see here we have game mode button and map choice button. So this looks familiar. This is our game mode button. So it's the same button that we use for all of these game modes here. The way we determine which game mode it is when we drag a new button in under user created to add a new game mode. So that's the new one there. If I go over here under edit these, I can choose which game mode it is. You can see it changes based on what I choose here. And it's very important to use this button because what it also does is it sets the game mode in your game instance while you choose that, so it'll be the game mode that's used throughout the game afterwards. And if we go look at the game mode button and we look at the code for that, and you can see that happening here. So on click, we're going to cast to the game instance and set that game mode. Okay, so it's important that you use those buttons, or you at least mimic the functionality of those buttons. And you'd have to add this section to your own button. And here, just to create a friendly name, you should just update this if you add any game modes that we don't currently have here. And adding a game mode is as simple as, in terms of the UI, is as simple as just going into the enums, looking for the game modes, adding one here. So you just add a new one, call it test mode. And then when we go into the game mode buttons here, we'll see we have this here. So I can just say my friendly name for that would be test. And that's it. So now I can, if I just compile that and bring another button in, just put that anywhere really. If I bring another button in, I can say that's the test mode, and you can see it automatically updates. Okay, and that's all you need to do for that. And the maps function pretty much the same way. So if you look at the code for that, again, it updates your map choice in your game instance, and then your friendly name is here. So if you add a new map, you just want to go to the enumerator for maps. Call this test map. Now you put the word play under. You don't have to do that. I just like to keep track of what my play maps are, what my menu maps are, etc. And then for the friendly name, same thing. Just copy that. Compile it, and then now you have a new option here for test, and you can see it'll update the name of the map there. And again, you can change the background colors and all that kind of stuff however you want. This is just there for examples. And that is pretty much it for adding game modes and maps in the UI. The create button and the find button, you'd want to use these existing ones here, so you can change the look of them however you want, but there's some functionality in there. We can take a look at that. Okay, so if you're using just regular sessions and not using any advanced sessions plugin, then when you click the button, it's just going to follow this path here, and it's either going to go to create a session or it's going to go to find a session. So the standard create session node is right there, and once you've created your session, it's going to open the lobby. And if you're looking for sessions, then it's going to go through this line of code here. This is just to show the refreshing screen that it's updating the sessions there, but this is actually where the sessions are created. So that's under the row holder, which is just another widget here. And what that looks like is nothing, actually. And the reason for that is because there's no sessions populated. So this gets populated when sessions are found. So you can see that here. And it's going to look for LAN sessions and WAN sessions, one or the other, or both, depending on how you've searched. And it's just going to run through the logic of finding it, and then it's going to create a row for every single session that it finds. So the session headers will be populated automatically based on the default fields that Unreal supports. And if you're using the advanced sessions, then you can add as many unique parameters in the game that you want and have the user just fill them out, and they'll be available to search for. Okay, so we'll take a look at advanced sessions later because that's not included by default. But for the standard sessions, we can see the standard fields that the sessions use, and that's just your server name and your ping and MaxPlayers and CurPlayers. Okay, so that's included by default. If you want more things like map name and game mode type and player's name or host name or anything like that, or a unique server name, then you'd have to use advanced sessions to get that because that's not included by default in Unreal. Okay, so but this is where the widgets are generated for each row. So when we click find and we get 6 games available, that means this is running 6 times to create those 6 rows. Okay, and if you are using advanced sessions, then it's going to run the advanced sessions stuff, and then you just need to populate a little bit of code here to do that. Okay, so that's pretty much the entire main menu. So the next thing we'll look at in the widgets is the HUD. This just has all the game mode type stuff on it, the flags, UI stuff that you would need for search and destroy and capture the flag. All of this stuff is automatically handled depending on what game mode you choose, so you don't have to edit any of this. You can change the icons if you want. You just need to know how to do that in the UI. That's just under widgets and stuff. All the logic is already done in here, so you don't have to really edit any of this stuff, but only the relevant stuff actually runs when the game starts. So feel free to take a look at that. It's available there. I'm not going to go through all this code in detail because it's not needed to do that, but if you want to edit anything there, that's the HUD. It's all in that RGM HUD. Scores, again, pretty obvious. It's just the scores. When you hold tab, you'll see the various teams and the scores and all that kind of stuff. Nothing is in here right now, so this is also auto-populated. When you hit tab, it'll find out how many players are in the game and build this out based on that. So what happens here is when tab is pressed, this is run, the refresh score, and it goes through and sees what type of game we're playing, how many teams we have, what's the combined score of the team, or if it's a free-for-all, how many players we have, and so on. And once it's done doing that, it will actually generate a whole bunch of rows here, depending on how many players or teams and their scores and their kills and their deaths and that kind of stuff. And that just gets added to the scroll box here. And what it actually generates is the score row. So it's automatically done here when you hit tab. So I'm not going to go through the whole logic of this. If you want to edit this in any way, feel free to edit the design. If you want to change the code, then you can go in and look at what's going on in here, but there's not a whole lot going on in the row. It's generated from the scores here. So the only 2 things you have to look at is the scores main and then the score row snippet here, if you want to change anything to do with the scores. End match, this you're probably definitely going to want to change because this is pretty basic, but this just shows up when a team wins or a team loses, or a player wins or loses. Okay, so one of these is just shown on the screen. This is generated from the player state when the game ends. Okay, so you can change this. This will always show up when the game ends, and I'll show you where that is. You can edit this however you want, or just use a whole different one if you really want to. And the important one here that we should look at, and this is the last one we're going to look at here, is the lobby. Okay, so you can make your own lobby widget, of course, but there are a few things that you're going to want to have. Timer, you can customize these images. If you wanted to choose the main lobby, which is what I recommend you do, you could just change the look of this lobby and change it however you want, because these fields are all called out from the game mode to update everybody's version of this widget, so they can see all the players that are in the lobby, they can see the amount of players that are here, countdown for the match, and so on and so on. And on this side here, this will automatically populate the teams widget depending on how many teams are in your game mode. So if you only have 2 teams, you're going to see 2 of these. If you have 30 teams, you're going to see 30 of them. And just to give you an idea what that looks like, we'll take a look at that right now. So I'm going to put 2 players on here. So we can see we have two instances going here. So on this one here, I'm going to create, let's say, 2 versus 2 versus 2. Can't remember how many players I have that configured for, but we can check that later. I'm going to create a session for that. So we can see I have it set to 10 teams. So that would be 20 players max. So that's handled automatically. So I have 2 versus 2 versus 2 versus 2. I said there can be 20 players in this game mode, and therefore it automatically generated 10 teams for me. And you can see here we have a join button and a relieve button. So those all work. And you can allow or disallow team selection based on the game mode, and we'll see that in a few minutes when we look at the game mode settings. You can see in the bottom right here we have how many players are in the lobby and what team they're on. We can see when the countdown will start. We have 15 seconds from when the countdown starts before the match does. And you can see there's 1 of 20 players here. Okay, so on the left side here, if I just do a find, and because we're not using advanced sessions right now, just a built-in UE4 stuff, these are the only criteria that we can get when we do a find. So max amount of players, current players, the server name, and the ping. So if I join that session, so we can see here, now there's 2, now there's 2, and you can see that I haven't chosen a team. If I do that, you can see that it shows up here on the left, and it also shows up in the bottom on all players. So all of this stuff is automatically replicated, it's automatically there, it's automatically populated. You can run this right out of the box without doing anything, and it'll work just fine. But you can obviously change the look and feel of any of these buttons however you want. Okay, the reason the countdown is not starting is because the game mode settings for 2 versus 2 versus 2 probably says that I need to have at least 6 players before the game will start. Okay, so you can configure that however you want as well. So if I close that down, if we go into snippets here under the widgets, under lobby, you can actually see the team slot here. And this is where you can customize the look and feel of the team slot. So all this stuff's populated automatically, the numbers and that when the game loads, but if you want to change the button look or the text or whatever, you can do that in here. And that pretty much handles all of the widgets. Now, in order to customize how each game mode functions, so we saw that the game would only start after a certain amount of players joins, otherwise the match doesn't start. That's where we want to go to the structs and the data. If we go into the data tables here and we open this up, this is where we're going to keep all the settings for all of our game modes. Okay, so if you look at Team Deathmatch, for example, these are all the different settings that we can use. Okay, and I'm just going to go through each of these, so if you're interested in knowing what they do, then feel free to follow along. If you want to add a new game mode, then you need to add it in the game mode enum, which we looked at earlier. Okay, you have to add it there, so we added test mode right there. And then you go into your data table game modes and you add a new row, and you would choose your game mode here. And very, 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 very important, this row name has to match exactly what the game mode is in the enum. So we called it that. That's because when we look it up later on in the system, we're going to pull down this and then try to find the row based on that name. Okay. So this is the master wait time. This is that time we saw in the top right corner. I had 15 for the 2 versus 2 mode. That was this one here, so you can see it's 15. To lock the teams, so the teams will auto balance when it hits 5 seconds left in the game. When it hits 5 seconds left in the match countdown, but you can lock the teams earlier. So if you want to lock the teams at 30 seconds, then that'll make sure the players can't choose a team or switch teams last second or do anything like that. And no matter what happens, the system will automatically balance the team counts in the end. So first it'll look at players that are not on a team yet and assign them to a team. And if this team still aren't balanced, then it will grab the last player to join the teams that have the most players on it and move them to a different team to balance the teams out. Okay, so that's all handled automatically. Allow users to select teams, that's pretty self-explanatory. If you have that off, then they will lose the ability to choose a team. They'll just automatically be assigned a team. Max players for this game mode, I have 20 for team deathmatch. That means there'll be 10 per side. If I make that 50, then there'll be 25 per side, and so on. So it's automatically determined how many teams you have based on the amount of players that you have. So for example, the duos mode, so teams of two, so 2 versus 2 versus 2 versus 2, I have 20 players, so they'll automatically be 10 teams because there's teams of 2. All right, if I change that to 30, then there'll be 15 teams. So that's automatically determined based on the amount of players. Friendly fire, that's self-explanatory as well. So the lobby map name, so this is important. This has to be set here. So if you do make your own lobby or you rename the map, make sure you change it here. If you want to have different map lobbies for different modes, you can do that. Just make sure that it has all the functionalities of the basic widget that we looked at, the lobby widget. So again, it's best to just duplicate it or start from the one that's included and then modify it however you want. But just make sure that this map exists and has the proper the name here set. Lobby timeout in minutes. This is just if you create a session and the person falls asleep at the desk or something, you don't want that session to be open forever because people will join it and not be able to do anything. And it'll take up space in their list when they try to find a map or find a session or whatever, or a game. So you just set this to whatever you want, but I have set to 5 minutes, so the session will automatically disconnect and disappear from the session list when somebody's searching for a session. Map prefix for the menus, menu underscore, so any menu map that you're going to be using and you're going to be spawning the spectator for, you want to put this prefix under there, so that way we know it's a menu map and we know we're not supposed to spawn a playable character in that map. We're going to spawn the spectator instead. So all menu maps should have that prefix on it. Minimum number of players before countdown. So duo teams of 2, this is why the countdown didn't start when I was testing. We need to have at least 4 players in the game. I only had 2, and that's why the countdown didn't start. Start after countdown condition. So if we have this set to after countdown, the game's going to start no matter what when the countdown finishes. But there are different options here. So we can set this to be teams are even, so it'll start as long as there's even teams. So if it's 1 person on team 1 and 2 people on team 2, well, that's not even teams, the game won't start. Okay, we can say teams are even but greater than 1 per. This would mean that exactly that, the teams are even, so there's 2 teams or 2 players on each team. However, there has to be at least more than 1 player on each team. So if there's 1 player on team 1, 1 player on team 2, technically they're even, but the game won't start because there's only 2 players. It has to be more than 1 per. Okay, and the rest are pretty self-explanatory. So 1 or more players per team, 2 or more players per team, at least 2 players total, at least 6 players total, and so on. Okay, again, no matter what you choose here, the teams will always be automatically balanced. But if you want to make sure there's at least, 6 players in search and destroy, then you can set that there. Okay, so you can just set that per team or per game mode. Skip countdown if the condition is met early. So what that means is if we get at least 6 players and there's still 30 seconds left in the countdown, it'll set the countdown to nothing and start the game right away. Otherwise, it'll still wait for the countdown to finish. Okay, so it's up to you however you want to make that work. Cancel session if the start game condition is not met after the count. So if there's not 6 players, by the time the countdown hits 0, everybody will see a cancel session widget, and they'll have the option to just go back to the main menu. Seamless server travel, this is required for Steam, if you're using Steam. If you're testing locally, this has to be false. Okay, so if you want to know more about that, I suggest you Google it. I'm not going to go into what all the seamless server travel stuff does, but just know that if you're trying to do this on Steam, if you're testing on Steam, this needs to be true. If you're testing locally, then you want to have that to false. Score limit, so that's also pretty self-explanatory. If you're doing a deathmatch or team deathmatch, how many points does a team have to get before the game ends and they're the winner? Okay, so in something like 2 versus 2 versus 2 versus 2 or 3 versus 3 versus 3 or squads, you probably don't want a score limit. You're probably going to just have last team standing. So that would take care of itself. You wouldn't have to set a score limit there. The scores will still be tracked, but you won't have to set a limit there because it doesn't matter unless you want. You can obviously set that, and then first team to get to that many kills will win. And if it's a team game, the kills are pooled and it becomes the team score. So if each player on a team, and there's only 2 players on the team, have a kill, that's a team score of 2. So when we're talking about team games like this, if we say the score limit's 2, then if one player on each, or if both players on the team get a kill, then they're going to win. Okay, so just keep that in mind for team games. For single player games like deathmatch, then we don't have a team, so everybody's for themselves, which means that the one player by himself has to get the 20 kills to win the game. This also is the same field we use for capture the flag. So how many times do you have to grab the enemy's flag and bring it to your base before you win the game for your team? Okay. Minus point on death and allow negative score. So what these do is if I have 5 kills, that means I have a score of 5. But then if somebody kills me, if this is on, then I will no longer have a score of 5. Because if I just got killed, I'll now have a score of 4. Okay, so I lose a point for every time I die, and I gain a point for every time I kill somebody. Allow negative score, self-explanatory. When I get to 0, if this is on, can I go negative, which means I have to now do extra kills to get myself out of the hole, and then I can start getting a positive score again. Okay, so that's just configurable there. Match time limit in minutes. How long do you want the match to be? 10 minutes, 0, whatever you want there. Allow respawn. So if you have a game where it's last man standing or last squad standing, then you probably don't want to allow respawns because obviously it doesn't make any sense. If it's last man standing, then there's no point in having respawns. So that's up to you how you want to do that. Use scores. So basically this will just enable or disable when they hit tab if they'll show a score or not. Search and destroy plant time. So how long does it take when you hold F to plant the bomb? So right now I have it set to 20 seconds. Obviously this is just ignored from any game mode that doesn't use it. So it's only relevant to the search and destroy mode, of course. So that's the one you want to make sure it's set on. These are just the defaults. The defuse time is 20 seconds. So if you're the good guys and you come and you want to defuse the bomb, it's going to take you 20 seconds to do it. Once the bomb is planted, how long does it take to explode? 60 seconds. These are just the icons you'll see in the bottom right corner of the screen. So the good guys, that's just the good guy's head. And the bad guy's head is that one. So it's just how the player knows what team they're on. Now the bomb icons in the top corner. When the bomb's armed, you'll see that pop up in the top corner, and there'll be a countdown for that, and that'll be the 60-second countdown until it explodes. It's also in the progress bar that fills up as well. You can just put no image there if you don't want an image, or put your own image there. It's up to you. And same thing goes here. So if the flag is safe, it's a little icon in the bottom right. If your flag has been taken, then it looks like this shredded flag icon. And if the flag's been taken, but the person died or they dropped it, that means it's on the ground somewhere. It's going to be this upside down glowy green icon. Okay, so you can replace those with whatever you want as well. The respawn key, this is just a free text field. You can call this whatever you want. This will show up on when somebody dies and respawns are enabled. They will see press whatever you put here to respawn. This does not actually bind the key. You have to do that yourself in the player controller. Right now, by default, it's bound to spacebar, but that's up to you. So just keep in mind that just typing something in here is not going to actually bind it. It's just going to change what's displayed to the user. Allow input after X amount of seconds. So when the game starts or the match starts, if you want everybody frozen at the beginning for a certain amount of time, you can just specify that time here. Lobby image, so this is just the image that's in the back of the lobby there when the game starts. So you can customize this or just remove it completely, up to you. Lobby mesh for fun. So what this is just a kind of a little bonus. You don't have to use it at all if you don't want to. But I'll show you what it does. So for the search and destroy mode, I have this bomb mesh. It's just a static mesh. And you can specify whatever mesh you want there, but I have the static mesh. So what'll happen is if I create a search and destroy match, and the lobby loads, just while I'm waiting, you're going to see bombs drop from the sky, and they're actually going to randomly explode at random times. And that's just what that fun mesh is. So you can make any mesh you want drop from the sky there. Whatever you set there will just drop from the sky. For example, if we look at capture the flag game, you can see flags are dropping from the sky. Okay, use advanced sessions. You want to turn this on if you are using advanced sessions, and if you are, then you'll also want to update this list if you want any additional fields here, and we'll go through that a little bit later when we talk about the advanced sessions. Standard sessions, you don't need to edit this. This is just what Unreal ships with by default, so this is what's going to be shown when you search for a session in the lobby. This is what's going to be shown when you search for a session from the main menu. In the top there, you have your headers, and then you have your list of sessions that you can join. And the dedicated server stuff down here, right now this is not tested at all. It's there just because if you do want to play with that a little bit, go ahead. I'll be developing this later on, but right now it's not officially supported, so I didn't include it as a feature in the description, but I am actively working to make this a little easier. So when you start a session and you want it to be a dedicated server, it's going to have a map and a mode already set. So you wouldn't want to have a lobby as the dedicated server. You'd probably want to have that as your party or something like that, and then have them server travel to the dedicated server, which already has the map and mode set. But right now that's just experimental, so you can play with it a little bit if you want, and you can look at that in the game mode, but it's not officially supported right now. Debug map name. So if you want to create your own debug level, and when you hit the debug options here, and you put a tick there that says debug, it'll load that map. So all of them will use the same map. So just make sure that when you create a debug map and you change that name, you have whatever in that map that you want to test. And that is all of the configuration for your game modes. And that's all done in here, so you don't have to do that anywhere else. It's all done in this data table here. If you do want to update that or add new new variables to there, you can just go into the struct, which is right here, the data table struct, and you can add additional variables here if you want to. Okay, and then you can go back in. Once you've added the variable, you go back into the data table and just populate it with whatever value you want if you want to extend any of the logic there. And one last thing to mention here while we're here is the menu mode here at the top. If you want to use something like advanced sessions, then you're going to want to enable that on the menu mode, because just remember that when you first start the game up, the game mode is going to be menu. Most of the stuff is not relevant for the main menu, but certain things are, like use advanced sessions is definitely one that's relevant. Okay, so what we're going to look at right now is the player controller settings. So if you go to the blueprint structs, you're going to see this RGM player controller here. And if you go in here, you're just going to see a few settings here. So fade in time, self-explanatory when the map loads and everybody's in. How long does it take to fade the camera in from black? And just below that is the color that you want to fade in from. So by default it's black. You can change that to whatever color you want. Just below that we're going to have the main menu spectator widget. So this is what we were talking about earlier. This is the widget that's going to spawn when you load the main menu, and this is the widget that's going to spawn when you load the lobby. So team 1 pawn to spawn, what this means is if you're on team 1, you'll spawn this pawn here, and if you're on team 2, you'll spawn this pawn here. This is optional. You don't have to use the team 2 one. If this isn't valid, then everybody will spawn the first one. So if it's a free-for-all game and everybody's the same character, then you'll just spawn this first one here, whatever you put here. However, if you want different colors or different behaviors or whatever, then you can specify team 1 and team 2 to have different pawns. The way I have it set up right here, if we go look, is this is my main character, and the only difference between these two here is they're just child classes of this one, and I just changed the mesh color to be blue or red. So that's just an easy way to differentiate the two teams. But again, if you're not playing a game that has only two teams, then team 1 pawn is only used. So if you have a game where you have 6 teams, then only this pawn right here will spawn. It won't use this one at all. But for capture the flag, you'll have 2 teams. For search and destroy, you'll have 2 teams. Team deathmatch, and so on. But like I said, if you forget to set this or you don't set this, then it just won't be used. So you can just have that one set there. Menu maps prefix, same as before. You just want to have menu underscore there. And this is important, the lobby map name. So whatever your lobby name is going to be when you create a session or you join a session, this has to be populated here. So if you call this something different, then make sure you update it here. And allow team choosing. Again, just set that or unset that here. And that's all the settings that we have for the player controller. If you want to use your own character, so if you don't want to use the character that's provided here, because there's not a whole lot of functionality there, then very simple to do. So if you want to use your own character, then this is where you would set your character to use as opposed to the one that comes with the system. The last part about integrating with your own character, though, if you're not using the existing character, then what you want to do is open your character up, and you just want to find the death sequence. So wherever your character is confirmed to have died, you need to add this one node right here. Okay, it's RGM after death, update kills and deaths. And you just want to put in whoever killed them and obviously the person that died. And what'll happen with this is it'll go through the system, it'll update all the scores for the person that just got a kill and then the person that just got a death. It'll update the team score and it'll update the leaders in the game, whoever's like the current score leader or kill leader. And it'll also check to see if the game win condition's been met. So did they hit the score count, or the person that died, were they the last player on that team, and is there no teams left? All of that'll happen just by adding that to your death sequence, okay? And you can get this from any actor, so you don't have to create this or anything. If you just right-click on your own character, type SIRGM after death, you can see right there, updates, kills, and deaths. All you gotta do is pipe that in, and I would suggest you pipe it in at the early part of your logic. That way that's all checked before you kill your character off. And that is all of the player controller settings that we have control over here. Next part we're going to look at, and it's the last part until we get to the advanced sessions here, is how do we integrate this into a game that we already have. Extremely easy, doesn't take a whole lot. All you have to do is find this folder in the example project, so the one I'm looking at right now, right click on it and choose migrate. Okay, and then all you're going to do is migrate this to the game that you already have running or the game that you already have working on or whatever. And okay, so basically you'll just have the snap-in folder appear in your existing project. And it just being there is not going to do anything, so you don't have to worry about it messing up any current code that you have or changing any of your game settings. It's not going to do anything once it gets there. Okay, so in order to utilize it on your other project, you want to go to Edit, Project Settings. Under Maps and Modes here at the top, you just want to expand this, and you'll see where it says Default Game Mode and Selected Game Mode. So under here, you want to choose the Blueprint Snap-in Game Mode Child. Not the parent, but the child. Okay, so you want to choose this one here, and that'll automatically use the player controller, the game state, the player state. You also want to change the very, very bottom here, the game instance. So you want to choose the Blueprint Snap-in Ready Game Modes game instance right here. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have that set and that set. If you have your own HUD, then you can just make this blank. That way you won't see the red crosshair that comes with the system. Okay, and then obviously your startup map should be the menu startup. That way when you hit play, you're going to get the main menu. And once you've done that, you're actually using the system right away. So as long as you have a character set in the player controller settings, it will spawn whatever character you have set there. And if for some reason you want to disable the system and test something else, or you want to do something different, all you have to do is go back into your project settings and just switch this back to whatever your testing game mode was, and switch your game instance back, and everything will be back to the way it was before you integrated the system. So you can literally turn it on or off just by switching these settings back. So that's pretty much all of the configuration. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. If you want to customize any of the back-end code, you're going to have to dig a little deeper, go into the blueprints, and take a look at how everything is done. Everything that you need to look at for the system to function is all under the blueprints folder here, under the RGM component. Under core is where you're going to see your game instance, game modes, game state, player controller, player state, and so on. Player states where all the score updates and all that happens. The game states where all the the match timer and the the capture the flag and search and destroy modes are set up at the beginning, and also where the game win conditions are set. So if we actually open this up, game win triggers are. So when somebody dies, for example, this gets run. Right, so a check win is run for anytime somebody dies, and it happens every time. It'll go through here and it'll queue up, because it could be three people might die within a second of each other or within the same second. So whoever gets here first, the queue gets processed. So we'll check who got there first and see if their death triggered the win, or if the next person's death triggered the win, and so on and so on. But when the time's up for the match, that takes precedent over everything, so that comes straight through, and whoever is in the lead when the time's up is whoever wins. But all those win conditions are determined here. So we can see we have deathmatch and team deathmatch, and basically it comes down to, is it a team game or is it a single player game, right? Like not a single player game, but like a free-for-all game, so no teams. Capture the flag has its own win conditions, obviously, so if the score count is met for the flag, then we're going to go there. Search and destroy, because it has its own win conditions, it's separate. But if you look at something like team win, if somebody dies, they're going to try to run that condition and say, okay, it's a team deathmatch, we're going to go into here, and the game win trigger was, only one team left alive, because if the person just died, we want to see if they're the only team left alive. If respawns are enabled, then it's irrelevant, so what will happen is it'll just exit out. However, if respawns are disabled, then that means that it's potential after that person died that there's only one team left. So what will happen is we'll go through and we'll check that, and that's what this does, and it checks to see if there's only one team left. If there is, then we run the end game right there, and that's where we're running the end game condition, and it goes into the player state, and it'll display like a widget that says you're the winner or loser that we looked at earlier. Okay, so if you have any questions or you need any help, just message me in the Discord channel in the Ready Game Mode section, and also check out the version help section here. So under instructions, there's actually step-by-step on how to integrate it right here. Okay, and even on how to add the advanced sessions if you need to do that or if you want to do that. And also check under the images folder, because all of the additional things that you want to add or any of the stuff you might need reminders about, there's images here to help you do that. Okay, so the advanced sessions plugin, it's very easy to add. If you haven't done it before, you just go to your plugins and we can see advanced sessions. Just turn both of them on. I mean, you don't have to use the Steam sessions if you don't want to, but I usually just turn them both on. And all that's going to do is once you have that on and you restart the editor, what will happen is you'll end up with a few extra nodes that you can use. Okay, so I just restarted with the advanced sessions plugin turned on. So if I go to the overview, I want to make my advanced sessions widget look like this. So I'm just going to move this on the other screen. So just to give you an idea, I have it open just here like this so I can take a look at it when I need to refer to it. So I'm just going to look at the advanced session 01, and that's the advanced session filter array here. Go to the graph. Okay, and then in the top left under functions, we want to go to the advanced sessions plugin. And the name of this was advanced session filter array F. So we want to look for that function there. So it's the first one, so we'll open that up. And we just need to fill in the missing fields here. So from this pink one here, we just want to drag that out, type make literal session property string, like that. And just plug the value into there, like that. And then from here, we want to drag this out and type make literal session search property. And equals is fine. And then from here, we want to drag this out and just choose promote to local variable. And then just call this find filters advanced session. And we actually just want to delete that. We don't want to actually have it sitting out there like that. If you have any local variables here on the left, just that were already there, just delete those. Okay, so the one that we just created, click on that, and then you want to make it an array. And then bring it out and choose get. And then from that one, we want to drag that out and choose add. And then just pipe that into there like that. Okay. And then the false from the bool that's existing, just drag that into there. Okay, and then similar to what we did here, we want to grab this make literal session property string, drag that out over here, and again promote to local variable. And we're going to call this create filters advanced session, and you can just delete it again afterwards. And you want to make it an array, and then drag it out and choose get. And same as before, just choose add, connect that, and we're going to use this blue one over here and connect that there like that. Okay, and once that's done, we just need to add them to our return node so we can get them outside of here. So just get 2 more gets, one of each. Okay, so we have find filters and create filters, and just drag them into the return node. And that's it. So that one's done. Okay, so save that. And then open the one just below it here, the advanced session results. I'm going to open that up. And then we're just going to open the image for the advanced sessions number 2. I'll just show you that real quick here. So we need to make it look like this. Okay, so I'm just going to have this open on the other window. So from the loop body here, we want to drag this out and type get extra settings. Okay, and we just want to connect the get extra settings to the for loop here. And then from the loop body, drag this out and type get session property string. And the array element here is going to be the setting name, and the extra settings are going to be this extra settings right here. And for found, we want to go into add, and the setting value will be the thing that we're adding. And for not found, we want to go to add unknown. That way it's just not blank in the list there. Okay, so just leave that the way it is right there. And that is all you have to do for that one, so save it. And we can close both of these now, and we want to go to our main graph here. Okay, and that's going to be session or advanced session image number 3. Okay, so for just right click anywhere here and just type create advanced session. So grab this and put it into the player controller. You want to grab the green one, put it into the public and the private connections here. And if we scroll over to the left, we'll see the advanced session create event here. Just drag that into there. And where it says use LAN, drag that into use LAN. And the only thing we have to populate now is the extra settings. And we want to grab that first function that we made up here in the left. Just drag it in. And because this is a create, we want to use the create filters. Okay, and that's all we want to do for that. And then we're just going to go down to the bottom here. And this will be the last image session, or image advanced session 4. And we just want to finish this one as well. So right click anywhere here and just type find advanced session. Okay, and then just drag that into there. And again, player controller into there. Max results, it's up to you. I usually set that to 100. Use LAN, that's the bool that's right here. So just pipe that into there. And on success, we want to pull this out and look for filter session results. Okay, and from this, we're going to grab the advanced session filter array that we made earlier. Just drag another copy of that out. And because we're finding, we want to drag the find filters in here. Okay, and then the results, we want to put into session results here. So basically, we're just going to filter any of the advanced sessions that it finds by the search criteria that the player wants to find. So if they're looking for a specific map name, it's only going to show the sessions that are available that have that map name. Okay, and then drag that into there. And the filtered search results, we want to drag that into both of these guys here. And the on failure, just drag that down here to advanced session searching. And that is it. So you can save that, compile it, and you've just configured the system to use advanced sessions. So that's all you have to do. If you decide later on that you want to add any additional advanced sessions fields, that's done under these functions right here where it says advanced session, add new fields. You're going to want to open this up, and you just have to carry on with what's going on here. So just add an additional field, call it what you want, map name, location, game name, game mode, and just pipe the values in there. So just add as many as you want here and then finish the loop and it's good to go. The last thing you want to do though to enable all of that is go to your structs, go to your data tables.
Add any additional fields to the advanced session fields in the data table.
And then you want to enable advanced sessions. So again, do that on the menu game mode. That way it's available to the player in the menu. And then you want to actually go through your game modes and make sure it's turned on for the game mode. I just changed this to 2 players. So what'll happen now is I can choose the type of game I want to create, either LAN or WAN. If I go to Team Deathmatch and I choose this map and hit create, you can see now I have to fill in these additional fields before it'll let me create a match. Snap in is the game name and the host name is thanks. Tips, location, Canada, and now I have the go option here. So now as my player over here on the left, I can just hit find and it'll find all matches. But if I want to specifically now search for a team deathmatch game on that, and now I'm only going to return team deathmatches, so I can hit find on that. And now you can see if I want to narrow my results, these aren't required. If I just hit go, I'll find all team deathmatch games. But if I want to find my friend's game specifically, he can tell me what he called it, and that will only return what he searched for. So I typed snap in for the game name. So if I hit go, so you can now see it's got a lot more options than before because we can now specify using the advanced sessions any free text fields that we want actually. So I'm piping in the game mode and the map mode. So now we know what map's being played. So if I want to narrow this by map, I can choose the map and then only that specific map will show up in my sessions here. And we still have the original Unreal defaults here at the end as well. But and that's how you use the advanced sessions. And it's all ready to go for you there. All you have to do is create those few nodes. Okay, so if you have any problems with that, just ping me in the Discord channel and I'll give you a hand with it. But otherwise, give it a go and let me know how you get on.